The Spirit's Book by Allan Kardec. Part 3. Moral Laws. Chapter 8. The Law of Progress. The state of nature.
Are the state of nature and natural law the same thing?
No, the state of nature is the primitive state. Civilization is incompatible with the state of nature, whereas natural law contributes to the progress of humankind.
Since there are fewer needs in the state of nature, human beings do not suffer all the tribulations they create for themselves in.
What do you expect? That sort of happiness is the ignorant happiness of the brute. There are humans who understand no other. It is being happy in the same sort of way as are the animals. Children, too, are happier than when they become adults.
Could humankind regress back to the state of nature?
No, humankind must progress without ceasing, and it cannot return to the state of infancy. It progresses because God has willed it. Believing that it could regress back to its primitive condition would be denying the law of progress.
The March of Progress.
Do humans draw from within themselves the power to progress? Or is progress nothing more than the result of education?
They advance naturally by themselves, not all progress at the same time or in the same manner. However, and it is through social contact that the most advanced help the others to progress.
Does moral progress always follow intellectual progress?
It is its consequence, but it does not always follow it immediately.
How can intellectual progress lead to moral progress?
By making good and evil understandable, for then humans can choose between the two. The development of free will follows the development of intelligence and increases the responsibility of humans for their acts.
Then how can one explain that the most enlightened cultures are often the most perverted?
Complete progress is the goal, but like individuals, cultures only reach it step by step. Until they have developed the moral sense, they may use their intelligence to do evil. Morality and intelligence are two forces that only achieve balance over time.
Is humankind ever permitted to halt the march of progress?
No, but it can sometimes slow it down.
What are we to think of those who attempt to halt the march of progress and cause humankind to regress?
They are poor, conceited beings whom God will chastise, and they will be swept away by the torrent they meant to stop.
Aren't there those who obstruct progress out of good faith, believing they are helping it because from their own point of view they often see progress where it does not in fact exist?
They are like a tiny pebble under the wheel of a large cart. A tiny pebble cannot keep a large cart from moving.
Does the perfecting of humankind always follow a slow progressive march?
There is the regular slow progress that results from the force of things. However, when a culture does not advance quickly enough, then from time to time, God causes a physical or moral jolt that transforms it.
Humankind's perversity is very great. Doesn't it seem like humans are regressing instead of progressing, at least from a moral point of view?
You are mistaken. Observe the whole closely, and you will see that they are advancing because they have a better understanding of what evil is, leading them day by day to reform their abuses. The excess of evil will make them understand the need for the good and for reforms.
Relapsed Cultures.
History has shown us many cultures that relapsed into barbarity after shocking events deeply upset them. Where is the progress in such a case?
When your house threatens to collapse, you demolish it in order to build a stronger and more comfortable one. Until it is rebuilt, however, there is trouble and confusion in your dwelling. A further example, you are poor and live in a hovel, but you become wealthy and leave it to live in a palace. Then, some poor fellow, as you formerly were, comes and takes your place in the hovel and feels very content because he previously had no shelter at all. Very well. Learn from this that the spirits incarnated in those declining cultures are no longer the spirits who had comprised them during their time of splendor. Because they have progressed, those former spirits have moved into even more perfect dwellings, while less advanced ones have taken their place, which they too will leave behind in their turn.
Aren't there peoples that by their very nature rebel against progress?
Yes, but they are corporeally disappearing day by day.
What will be the future fate of the souls who animate those peoples?
Like all other souls, they will finally arrive at perfection by passing through other existences. God deserts no one.
So the most civilized individuals may have been primitive beings and cannibals?
Yourselves were such more than once before becoming what you are now.
Like individuals, cultures are collective individualities that pass through childhood, adulthood, and decrepitude. Since this truth is attested to by history, does it not lead us to assume that the most advanced cultures of this century will decline and end just as those of antiquity?
Those cultures that only live a material existence and whose greatness is founded only upon power and territorial expansion are born, grow, and die out because the might of a culture exhausts itself just like that of an individual. Cultures with selfish laws that clash with the progress of enlightenment and charity die out because light annihilates darkness and charity eradicates selfishness. However, for cultures as for individuals, there is the life of the soul, and cultures with laws that are in harmony with the eternal laws of the Creator will live and will be guiding lights for other cultures.
Will progress someday unite all of Earth's peoples into a single nation?
Not into a single nation. That would be impossible because nationalities are formed based on different customs and needs arising from the diversity in climates, and their local laws are designed to accommodate such customs and needs. Charity, on the other hand, knows nothing of geographical latitudes and does not differentiate people by their color. When the law of God comprises the basis of human law everywhere, cultures and individuals will practice the law of charity toward each other, living joyfully and peacefully because no one will attempt to deceive their neighbor or live at his or her expense.
Civilization.
Does civilization represent progress for humankind, or does it represent decadence, as some philosophers profess?
Incomplete progress, because humankind does not pass suddenly from infancy to maturity.
Is it reasonable to condemn civilization?
Instead, condemn those who abuse it. Do not condemn the work of God.
Will civilization be purified one day so that the evils it has produced will disappear?
Yes. When morality is as developed as intelligence, the fruit cannot come before the blossom.
Why doesn't civilization immediately effectuate all the good it could produce?
Because humans are not yet ready or disposed to obtain that good.
Wouldn't it also be because in creating new needs it incites new passions?
Yes, and because all of a spirit's faculties do not evolve in tandem, everything takes time. You cannot expect perfect fruit from an imperfect civilization.
The progress of human legislation.
Could society be governed solely by natural laws without having to resort to human laws?
It could if humans understood them well enough. If they were to actually practice them, such laws would be sufficient. Society, however, has its requirements and needs special laws.
What causes the instability of human laws?
In times of barbarity, the strongest are the ones who make the laws, and they frame them to their own advantage. It becomes necessary to modify them as humans comprehend justice more clearly. Human laws become more stable as they move toward true justice, that is to say, to the degree that they are made for all and as they are aligned with natural law.
Aren't harsh criminal laws a necessity in the present state of society?
A depraved society has a need for harsher laws. Unfortunately, such laws are meant to punish a wrong after it has already been committed, rather than to cut out the roots of what has caused the wrong. Only education can reform humankind, which will then have no more need of such harsh laws.
How can humankind be led to reform its laws?
This will occur naturally through the force of circumstances and by the influence of moral persons who will guide it along the path of progress. Many things have already been reformed, and many more will be. Wait a while.
Spiritism's influence on progress.
Will Spiritism become a common belief, or will it only be accepted by a few?
It will certainly become a common belief and will mark a new era in the history of humankind, for it belongs to nature itself. In fact, the time has come in which it must take its place among the other branches of human knowledge. It will nevertheless have to withstand great struggles, more against personal interests than against conviction, because you must not ignore the fact that there are persons interested in fighting it, some out of self-centeredness, others from purely material motives. Its opponents, however, will become more and more isolated and will finally be forced to think like the others, lest they make themselves look foolish.
Shouldn't we perhaps fear that Spiritism may not be able to defeat humans' indifference and their attachment to material things?
To suppose that any cause could act as some kind of magic spell to transform humans would be to know very little about them. Individuals' ideas are modified little by little, and generations are needed to completely erase old habits. Transformation, therefore, can only be realized with time, gradually, step by step. With each new generation, a part of the veil has been lifted, and Spiritism has now come to remove it once and for all. In the meantime, even if it had the effect of correcting one defect, of correcting one defect of only one person, it would be a step for that person, and therefore a great good, since that first step would make further ones easier.
Why haven't the spirits taught from the earliest times what they are teaching today?
You do not teach to children the same things you teach to adults, just as you do not give newborns food they cannot digest. Each thing has its own time. The spirits taught many things that humans distorted or did not understand, but which they are now capable of comprehending. Even though their teaching was incomplete, they prepared the soil to receive the seed, which is now about to bear fruit.
Since Spiritism must mark a step in the progress of humankind, why don't the spirits speed up this progress through manifestations that are so widespread and patent that they could lead the most incredulous to believe?
You desire miracles, but God has sown them by the handful right under your feet. Yet, you still have people who deny them. Did Christ himself convince his contemporaries by the wonders he performed? Even today, do you not see those who deny the most obvious facts occurring under their very eyes? Are there not those who would not believe even if they did see them? No, it is not by miracles that God guides humankind. Out of divine goodness, God wishes to leave to it the merit of being convinced through reason.